That's right. Without holding up, don't look at this one. Kuf Yud Aleph with Beis on the bottom. Omar Chizkiya Mishum Abai, 2 lines from the bottom. Hilchasa. We're continuing with the sugya of Nat Bar Nat. Dogim Sha'alu B'Kara. So meaning, you have a plate that had meat on it, and the meat was absorbed in the plate, and then you take a piece of hot fish, you put it on the plate, and the fish absorbs the flavor of the meat through the plate, so that's 2 times removed. Mutar la'achlan b'kutoch, you're allowed to eat the fish with milk. So that's the halacha. Now we're talking about a fleshik knife that has like a layer of fat on the knife, and you cut different types of vegetables with it. Can you eat those vegetables with milchiks? Do those vegetables absorb the meat, and do they become themselves meat, where you would not be allowed to eat those vegetables with milchiks? So tznoin, a radish, shechatach b'sakin, shechatach b'basar, also la'ochle b'kutoch. You're not allowed to eat it with milk. V'hanimili tznoin, the agav churfei bola, since it's very sharp. Now if you'd stop right here and just read the simple words of the Gemara, since it's very sharp, so that's why it absorbs the meat and the radish becomes fleishiks. Rashi sticks in a few other words here. If you look at Rashi, somewhere in the middle of the Rashi v'achel, talks about the fat, and then he says v'oid the mishum churfi bol atim edogam aroitchim, and then he says v'agav duchka de sakino. He sticks in another word here, that there's the pressure of the knife that also causes, so it's a combination of 3 things. There's the fat, the grease that comes off the meat, it's the sharpness of the radish, and the pressure of the knife. These 3 things combined cause the radish to become fleishiks, and you're not allowed to eat it with milk.
If 1 and 3 would apply to any food. Only number 2, that is.
Right, so you have the combination that's sharp.
Does it make you fleshy?
You need to have, you need to have sharp.
Does it make you fleshy?
What?
Eating this radish, does that make you fleshy? Or just eating it together?
I don't know.
You have to wait 6 hours.
You have to wait 6
You have to wait 6 hours.
Wait 7 hours.
7. Why
You
7?
have to wait 6 hours, yeah.
All right, so now there's machlokes rishonim. What do you do?
It's like an onion.
What do you do with this radish? There's actually 3 shitas in this radish. What do you do with it? What is it? How much becomes fleishiks? A radish is this size, and you cut with a knife in the middle. As we're going to see in a second, let's just read this one line so you understand the question of a kishus gorer lebei paskiv achel. So when it comes to something sweet like a squash, then you just have to peel away the area where the knife touched. So some Rishonim, like the Rosh, say that when it comes to radish, the same thing. You just take away the peel. I don't know how it fits in the Gemara. I have to look into that.
Onion, isn't a radish together? Onion is what he's saying is that since the radish is like the onion or worse than onion, it now becomes like worse than the flesh sticks, isn't it? That's his point.
No, we're not talking about onion. We're talking about
peel it off. It's the hava meaning that you can peel it off.
No, whatever it touched. Whatever it touched.
Whatever the
knife touched. Whatever the knife touched in the radish.
No,
the knife
goes
touched.
in. That's what happens to a sharp thing.
No, but a radish. You ever saw a radish?
Yes,
How does
I've seen a radish.
What, it absorbs all through?
That's
6
what
inches
we're
away?
We're saying.
Okay, so the Rishonim say that you're saying like the Rashba, and the Rosh says you only have to peel away a small layer, and so I don't know. Right, I don't understand. And the Ravid says you have to. Do you guys remember the lashon? You remember this lashon? Kedei netila.
Yes.
Kedei netila is the thickness of a thumb. Of a finger, a thumb. It's about 2.5 centimeters.
That's the whole radish.
Okay, no, 2 centimeters. Radish is bigger than that. Fine, let's go back there. Now there's more vegetables. Kilcha de lifta shari. Now we have a special vegetable, the stalks of a turnip. They are very sweet. And since they're sweet, they have the ability to overcome and to nullify the meat. They nullify the meat. So therefore, if you cut into a turnip with a fleshik knife, it doesn't do anything to the turnip. The turnip burns away the tam of the basar. And here's an amazing halacha. So we have to remember, the turnip gets rid of the flavor of the meat. The silka, but beets, asiri. Beets have halacha like a radish. They're sharp. So they become fleishiks. Now, here's the halacha. So we have turnips and we have beets. Turnips are sweet, beets are sharp. V'pasach bu delifta, and if you alternate between the turnip and the beet, so when I go, first I take the knife, I cut a turnip. On my knife now, you have like this invisible layer of sweetness. Now I take that knife and I cut a beet.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turnip is sharp, no?
No, turnip, what the Gemara says is sweet. Has a sweetness
Not
to it.
radish, turnip. Okay, sorry.
Turnip has a sweetness. So you kind of like put this beautiful layer, this plastic layer that you can't see, invisible layer on the knife that doesn't allow the meat to come out. Now you take that knife and you cut a beet where typically the beet would become fleishiks, but because it has this layer of sweetness on it, you do one cut through the beet and the beet is not fleishiks. And you keep on going. You go turnip, beet, and you can cut as many. Turnip, beet. Very good.
What about turnip radish?
No, he's right. It's a good question. Radish.
Beet.
So the kids are, yes, I think I would say without it's a good question. Without looking into too stark, I think a beet and a radish have the same kind of halacha, so it should be okay. That's what he said. Turn a beet. I hope the guy from Shpach is not watching right now.
Today's class is turnip, radish, beet. That's the information.
Turning a beet, a middle share. Okay. Boy minei Rav Dimi mi Rav Nachman. Maula anuchi kada de milcha gabi kada de kamcha. Kamcha, Rashi explains, is kutach. What's kutach? This wonderful, I wish we had it in our days. It's moldy bread with sour milk and some salt. Shmak moed. Sounds like, phew.
You could arrange it for the siyum.
For the siyum, you're probably allowed to eat it together with fleishiks nowadays. This pash is not even considered. It's not roy lachilas kelev. Yogurt? No. I said moldy bread. What part of yogurt has moldy bread and salt? Okay, fine. So now you have this kutach that's completely milchiks, and you want to take a jar of salt and put it next to it. In other words, you're storing in your cabinet, you have your spices, you have your garlic, your salt, and then your kutach. Is that okay? What's the problem? The problem is that one of the days, you're going to open up the jar of kutach, and a piece of kutach is going to jump into your salt. Kutach is milchiks. Then you're going to take your salt a minute later and make your soup with it. So now you have milchiks in your fleishiks. It's just a simple, in general, when you have two problematic things, if you have isur, we're not so worried about it. Over here, since they're mutter stuff, could they go together? No. It's just, why is it not or not? It's that physical milchiks inside the salt. It's a piece. Yeah. For now, here we're going to see. The Gemara talks about tam and not tam.
So what's the thing?
Omalei also. So Rav Nachman says you're not allowed to do this, and the Gemara is going to explain the chalamai. And what if the kimcha? What if the kutach is right next to the vinegar? Omalei shari. Umayishna. What's the difference? So he says his famous. Rav Nachman likes to say this in Shas. L'chi teichul. I didn't look it up, but I bet it's a lot of times. L'chi teichul ala kur de milcha. If you pay me for 1 quart of salt, I will tell you. And then he starts telling him. In other words, it's a joke. It's like, pay me money, I'll tell you. It's like a dumb question you're asking me. Or the other pshat in Rashi, not here, but a lot of times Rashi, I think, says that, if you eat salt, I'll tell you. Ooh. But my timer, so this explains what you had difficulty with. When you take a piece of kutach and you put it in vinegar, the vinegar dissolves it completely. You don't see it and you don't taste it. It's gone. There's no noise in time. But if it falls into salt doesn't burn it up. It sits there on the top of the salt. You just don't notice it. You take a bunch of salt, you pour it into your fleishik soup, and now you have a problem of basar b'chalav. Says the Gemara, Hu bar goizla, you had a baby chicken or a baby bird, a little bird. In other words,
Pigeon.
A pigeon, okay, pigeon. A geisel is usually a chick. A chick. The point is that the meat is very soft. The novel lekada de kamcha. Interesting that he says it's a pigeon. Okay, find a pigeon. Shayir Rav Chineno Berei de Rava. It fell. So you have raw meat, but very soft raw meat. Falls into kutach and he pulls it right out. He rinses it off. What's the halacha? So Rav Chineno Berei de Rava says it's mutter. Omar Rava man chakim lemishnei kehegavno ilav Rav Chineno Berei de Rava mepashroin. So the Gemara is going to explain what the issue here is. Yesterday we learned about the concept that salt has the ability to cook things. Now, the kutach has salt in it, so maybe the kutach cooked it. So what's the answer to that? Maybe the salt in my cake, because my wife puts like 2 drops of salt in there, maybe it cooks food. So the answer is it's not enough salt. You need an amount of salt that's going to cook. It's going to do something here, not give it flavor. If you have that much salt where you can't eat it because it's so salty, says Rashi that you preserve. In those days they didn't have refrigeration, so you want to preserve the meat, so you dump on a huge amount of salt, so when it has that crazy amount of salt, that amount of salt could cook something. You need to wash off the salt. Tosfos doesn't like that pshat. Tosfos says enough salt that you do melicha, but it's still a lot of salt. You know, they spread it out nicely. Right? Latznia means to hide it, to store it.
To store it, okay.
Yeah. And Tosfos says not that much. It's enough to do melicha, but it's a lot of salt. It's not the salt that you put in your recipe of kuta.
Also, it shouldn't be that for a certain amount of time. If you just drop in 1 second, you can't do it.
Yeah. I hear. I don't know. 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's English.
I mean, he's saying good, because at the end of the day, even by bishul is the same thing. It has to be a certain amount of bishul. Like by bishul also, we said how much is bishul kidei. It has to be kol tzarka or whatever. It has to 1 second into the pot of cooking is not. Cooking is not. Could be some sort of shear. Like by kavush also. What's kavush? We discussed yesterday. Kavush is 24 hours or 40. I don't remember the amount, but there's a certain amount.
But over here, it's just talking about they just fell in for 1 second. And it took
No, over here we're talking about don't put it next to each other because it might fall in there and you might not realize. You might use the salt a day later. I don't know how long it's there.
You're saying that it fell in, though.
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. We're talking about the geisel. Geisel, yeah. Geisel, yeah. So I don't know. It's good question. You could eat the kutcha as is with the salt. So the salt is not powerful enough to cook. This we're talking about a geisel, a chick that's raw. Aval tzoli, but if it's roasted, boyi klipa. You have to remove the peel. Now, according to the Ritva, what does tzoli mean? It's roasted. So what if it's roasted? Why does roasting help anything? Why does it make it more absorbing than a raw piece? I would say fakir. Maybe if it's roasted, it's less.
It closed it.
It closed it. So the Ritva says this roasting is a hot piece of roasted chicken. So it's still hot off the. So it's really a question of hot and cold, not roasted, not roasted. Tosfos disagrees. He says we're talking about a cold roasted piece, and it still has the ability to absorb more. It absorbs.
Why? Because it's got.
What do you see? No, that's no. Ve is bei pile. Ve is bei pile. What does pile mean, Rabbi? Say without looking in. Oh, how do you?
Elephant.
Oh. No, but not elephants. I didn't make the picture of elephants because it has cracks. It has cracks.
That's in the 8-minute daf.
I hope he's not watching today.
It's actually not in the. This should have been in the 8-minute daf. Yeah. No, I had nothing else to push it down. That's it. I'm done. No material for today. V'izbe pile kule asur. If it has cracks, but you guys are going to remember what pile is, no?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to ask in a day or two. Pile is cracks. If it has cracks, so it absorbs more. So Mela, it's also again. And if you spice it, and the spices open up the pores, and it makes it soft. Forget about the opening. I just added that. It makes it soft, so it absorbs more. Kule yasur. Then the whole baby pigeon, whatever you guys call it, the chick
kutach.
is also in the kutach. Omer Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Kikar shechotach oleo basar asur lachla. So now we touched upon it yesterday. Moyal dam. You have, a lot of times you cut a piece of meat and you're in this fancy restaurant that gives you a piece of raw meat. So like these juices come out and they look red and you don't know. You're looking at, what are you doing? You're eating blood. What are you eating here? It's moyal dam. What is this dam? So Shmuel says depends. This dam, this moil that you're seeing, if it has a certain consistency and looks a certain way, it's asur. What's interesting is that the Ritva says, and I saw other Rishonim agree to him, that it's only marasayin. Nobody holds that it's really blood. By the way, blood inside a piece of meat, if you were to eat meat and you find out that there was nice amount of blood in there, that red is really blood, let's say halachically it's blood, it's okay. Because it's a dami varim shali parash. So it's within the ivarim. Over here you cut it and it came out, that's the problem. And the Ramban also says something in the same idea that you're talking about marasayin. So he says, "V'hanimili the asmik." So if the meat was red, and some want to learn in Rashi that it became red, not stam. Every meat is red. So what does it mean? It means it had a wound. And these are Rishonim that are saying this, that it got a wound while it was alive, and therefore it's like red. V'hanimili the avri.
That's out. The blood.
What?
You mean the blood that came out into the bread?
What do you mean?
What's asmik?
The piece of meat. The piece of meat.
The red that came out onto the bread.
is thick.
Yeah.
No. Rashi says, "So haya habasar adam." The meat is red.
Yeah, meat is red.
V'hanimili the avri.
Mo, he says, the mud is red.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
The meat.
Not the meat, the juice.
Not
meat.
the meat.
Who says moil?
Miles-
Rashi.
No, Rashi says
Meat.
no. V'hanimili the asmik shahoya habasar adam. Where are you reading?
It's like a
Well,
vote.
you're saying if the meat is very red, then the juice that comes out vice versa is blood.
Exactly.
Not oil.
Exactly. If the juice is red, it proves that it's.
If the meat is red, it's
If the meat is red, it proves that the juice that came out is blood. V'hanimili the avre, and this is only when the juice went through the bread. V'hanimili the asmechei, that it's a thick, it has consistency. It's not like this clear juice that comes out. Avaklishto lesnambo. Says the Gemara, so this is Shmuel that says all these halachas.
drawn on consistency or color.
Which one?
Klishta. Or consistency, because color depends on the meat.
No, klishta is I know it's the color. Klishta is color. Asmche is consistency. Klishta it's clear. It's like clear. Shmuel who just said these three things, shadi lo kalba. He wouldn't eat this bread that has the juices in it, the moyal dam. He gave it to his dog. Ravuna, what does the article say?
Thin. Consistency.
On the klishta, he says thin.
Consistency.
Interesting. Ravuna Yorev Leili Shami. So Ravuna held that it's 100% mutter, but he didn't eat it. He gave it to his shamish. Manav shach. Yishori lekula alma shori. Also lekula alma aser. Shani Ravuna danina daite. Ravuna was istinus. He held its mutter. He just didn't want to eat it, so he thought it was disgusting. Is the Tosfos here? No. Let's go back there. Rava ochalei v'karlei chamar basar. So Rava again held that this is 100% mutter, and he called this moil dam, he called this juice, he called it wine, meat wine. It's red. It's nothing to do with blood. It's meat wine. So over here the Ramban says that again, it's a question of marasayin, and Rava said there's no marasayin here. It doesn't look like you're eating blood. You're drinking wine of the meat. It's not blood. Nothing to do with marasayin. No problem. Omer of Nachman of Shmuel, Eid menichin kli tachas basar ad sheyichle kol marad mu mishaboy. So we were talking about this yesterday. You want to catch the fat that comes out of the meat. And Chaim brought up a very good point, a very good kasha, and today we're going to discuss this kasha. And basically the Gemara discusses it. How could you eat? He was asking, how could you eat the fat that comes out of the meat? At the end of the day, it touched some of the blood, and the blood should make it awesome. So the Gemara says, you're right. You have to wait until all the blood leaves the animal. Then only then can you catch the blood. And we're going to go even weiter into this kasha. Minoy dinan. Mazud mishmei rapapa omar mishetalatim roson. When it starts smoking, What starts smoking exactly? So Rashi says either the meat or the coals. Two pshatim. Maskevler Rashi, v'dilmat atah mata, ila aloi mata. You have piled up meat and it starts smoking. Heichet teisa, that the smoke is coming from the top piece. Maybe it's coming from the bottom piece, the closest to the fire. Makes a lot of sense. And the top piece is still oozing out blood and it's going to ruin your gravy, your fat that you're trying to catch off the grill. Elo Marvashi, Leslita Kanto. There's no way out of this. Ella, the only way out. Mishdobe tarti geloli milcha. You take 2 small sizes of salt. Interesting that Rashi says that when he says 2 gloli, he means dafka, a very small amount of salt. Because if you put a lot of salt, it does such a great job that it liquefies the blood to the point where it can mix in to the fat and it makes it even worse. Now, I just want to point out, Tosfos says an amazing thing here. It kind of changes everything that I thought until now, because I was saying, I might have misspoken, but maybe not according to the Rabbanon. I was always saying that if you bring the piece of meat to a lab, if chaticha nasis nevela, you bring it to a lab and they check under the microscope and they see there's not a single molecule of milk, it still remains milchigs. So look at Tosfos here, amazing Tosfos, and this kind of answers what Chaim was asking yesterday, like 4 lines from the bottom. V'lo yamrinon says trei gololei de milcha mishayif. The last Tosfos on the bottom. You don't say that the shuma, this is his kasha, that the fat that hits the meat should become asur because it mixes with blood. And what is it going to help me that I put salt afterwards? And by the way, when he says that you put salt, he means even all the way in the beginning of the process, even before the smoke, before anything else. So you're catching the blood right away, but at a certain point, they mix together somewhere. Says Tosfos is amazing. Since it comes out 100%, there's not a single molecule. So over here, you could say Efshel Sachta. He continues on. It's not similar to Efshel Sachta because over here I'm removing completely. And remember, there is no isser in it. You did take out all the milchigs, but it could be over there by Efshel Sachta. Since the Rabbanan say that it's also, even if I know for a fact that I took out everything. Tosfos points out that I'm able to remove. Since I'm able to remove, there are no molecules of blood left in the shuman. That's why it's 100% mutter, and that answers Chaim's kasha.
Isn't it the same as the liver, where you have to salt it completely in order to eat it?
No, you don't salt it completely. You don't salt. You roast it. You get rid of all the blood, but there's no blood mixed with meat.
How before you have to salt the liver?
No.
I mean, I could put a little bit of salt.
So even Hanan, you could be matir, in theory. Even if nasis nevela, you could be matir.
No. So that's what I'm adding. That I think with the Rabbanon, once maybe theoretically deraisa you could, but I think once you say chaticha nasis nevela, so Rabbanon said finished. We don't care that maybe you took out all the molecules. Nasis nevela, I'm not going to go look into it. But over here, I know that the way shuman and dam work is I could separate them, so no blood ever entered the shuman. I think that's what Tosfos is saying. It's a physical thing. Over there, we don't know. So we made chaticha nasis nevela and the story. And then the top word of Kufyud Bezom Dalef, Umeshaife, means that you pour out your shuman, but very, very carefully and gently. Because you don't want the blood to mix in with the shuman as you're pouring it off. That's how Rashi explains. Bidugi is the plate, the pan that catches the fat. Drip pan. We just said halacha before that you're not allowed to eat the bread that you cut a piece of meat on. So over here he says you could. Over here it's worse. When you take the knife, and that's how he explained also by a radish, when we talk about the radish. The force of the knife has the ability to extract blood from within the meat that otherwise would be mutter. And that's why the piece of bread is asur, or like the Ritva explains, it's a Marasayin kind of thing. Omar Rav Nachman, Dogin Boifer. So I just want to give a quick akdam over here. If you have a lot of pieces of meat piled up on top of each other and you're doing melicha, and let's say the salt extracts the blood, or whatever it does its job. So now you have blood coming from the top to the bottom, and it hits the bottom piece, let's say. So if the bowl, the tray that you're doing it on has holes on the bottom, so the blood comes out, no problem. All the pieces are mutter. Why? As we're going to see. Kaboiloi, he's being pilot and not boileya. They're all busy right now extracting blood. They're going one direction, as we explained. The blood goes in one direction, and even the bottom one doesn't have the ability to ingest, to absorb blood. Doesn't have the ability to absorb blood. Okay. However, if the tray that you're doing this malicha doesn't have holes, and all the blood comes to the bottom, eventually they're stopping to be pilot. I don't know how long it takes. Let's say it takes 2 hours, 10 hours, whatever the shear. Okay, 18 minutes. 18 minutes to release all the blood. Now the guy in the bottom is there 25 minutes. He starts to absorb blood, and he's absorbing his friend's blood and all the bloods. It's a balagan. So that would be usher to eat anything that's soaking in that blood, unless you do malicha afterwards to that piece. Okay, so now here comes a very mechudesh dik halacha. And I want to point out Taisus. Taisus says an amazing thing. The Rishonim discussed this. So according to what I just said, so what if I put a piece of meat at 1 o'clock, and then I put another piece at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock? Oh, so the guy in the bottom started being pilot after 18 minutes, he said. Then I put another piece, and he keeps on. So maybe I have to put it all in one shot. Maybe I have to take the guy from Pesach that does the matzahs and do 18 minutes, right? I have to be, because this guy is going to be pilot. Says Taisus, no. Comes up with a big chiddush called tzir. Tzir is the juices that come out of the meat. So as long as the piece of meat is being pilot tzir, and that takes more than 18 minutes, let's say that takes an hour, so it cannot absorb new blood as long as it's pushing out tzir as well. So I get extra minutes on all the pieces on the bottom.
Why?
Because tzir also doesn't allow you to absorb.
But you
It's not
still
just
have to
that.
measure the time.
What?
You still have to measure the time.
Of tzir. Yeah, maybe.
24 hours.
Not all the Rishonim say like Taisus. The Rishonim say other things.
24 hours.
Tzir is 24 hours. So you have 24 hours. Okay. According to Taisus, you have to measure 24 hours. That shouldn't be an issue typically. But the 18 minutes could be an issue.
Why?
You're in a shlachtois until you bring a piece of here, a piece of there. And, 18 minutes goes by like that. Says the Gemara, so what do I do if I have two types of meat that are pilot at different hours, different times? If you're telling me that a cow meat takes 18 minutes to come out, what about fish meat? Maybe it only takes 3 minutes. And that's the halacha. It takes much less. So then it'll start, as soon as it stops being pilot, it starts being boileya. And if you salt two types of meat together, you create an issue here. And therefore, you cannot do melicha with fish and chicken.
And fish doesn't have the tzir.
But not at different times. It's different. And the tzir, it's everything is weaker at a fish. So if it doesn't have any holes in the bottom, then two pieces of meat are also of the same kind. And if they have holes on the bottom, then what's the problem with the fish? It has holes on the bottom. Since it had the very soft skin, so they expel the blood quickly, and therefore they start absorbing the blood much quicker. But chicken is tougher. After the fish relax, the chicken continues to be pilot, and the fish will absorb from them.
What's it absorbing if it has holes? It's all coming out.
No, as it drips on it. It's on the bottom, it's next to it, yeah. As it falls on it, touches it.
Because it can drain out.
No,
It's not getting-
it has holes, but it's touching it. Something will happen there. We're talking about in a situation where it touches, not just sitting in a pot, the same pot. Says the Gemara of Mori Barochel, what?
There's nothing to do with menukav and not menukav.
Why?
It's hot.
Because if it's sitting on each other, it's when it's dripping onto it.
Yeah, but we're saying pilot. We're talking about, we understand the concept of it's pilot. They're both pilots. So even if it has holes, it's not a problem because it's pilot. And as it's pilot, it cannot absorb. But by fish, it could. What do you mean if it does?
Even if it doesn't have holes.
No, if it doesn't have holes, so even after the plita is finished, then the chicken will be usher because it's sat there in the juices. Yeah. Either it's sitting or it's not sitting, but the point is, what's the difference between fish and chicken? And the Gemara explains the difference. Rav Mari bar Rochel, this is the famous, Rashi doesn't say it here, but this is the famous Amor that's called by his mother's name, because his father had to be Megayer. His father raped the mother. She was a hostage, and he came out of that birth. It's a Shiloh. Yeah, we saw it many times in Shas. So his name is Rav Mari Barachel. They don't want to mention the father, even though I guess he did tshuva later. Imlach le basar shchuto bahadi basar treifa. This is Shmuel's daughter, I believe. Shmuel's grandson. Imlach le basar shchuto bahadi basar treifa. What's the halacha if you take two pieces of meat, but one is kosher and one is treif, and you salt them? Salting is like cooking. Is it obviously if you cook a piece of treif meat with a piece of kosher meat, you made the piece of kosher meat treif. What about salting? We said salting is like cooking. Hatmeim. It says by sheretz hatmeim. There's extra hey. We learn le'esor tziron ve'rotvan ve'kiva shalem. So the juices, the gravy, the sediments, everything is asur. It's not just the meat itself. So mamela by us also, everything is asur, and therefore we're worried that the tzir, the juice, will go in. It's not just the blood. Also the tzir will go in and get absorbed. And mamela it's asur. Why do you have to come on to juices? I just cooked it with salt. If I would just say it's asur, Shmuel says the salt here, I wouldn't know a different chiddush. What if there's no blood at all? The blood drained out through a hole, like you were saying, but it's still so there's no blood. So I want to tell you a chiddush that it's not just the blood that could answer it, but maybe the juices are so thin that they don't count for anything. They can't trafe up the kosher piece of meat. That even the juices have the ability